All right, and the first fight on the main card that we are going to break down is going to be the featured bout of the evening. Probably the most look forward to fight on the card for most people aside from the main event. It's a battle in the lightweight division between the number 2 ranked former interim lightweight, the number 2 ranked interim lightweight champion, or former interim lightweight champion, I should say, in Dustin the Diamond Poirier, who comes into the fight with a record of 28 victories, 7 defeats, and 1 no contest, going up against the former multiple-time Bellator lightweight champion, former UFC lightweight title challenger, and the man coming off the huge front kick KO victory over Tony El Cucuy Ferguson at UFC 274, being the first man and only man to ever knock out El Cucuy in Iron Michael Chandler, who comes into the fight with a record of 23 victories and 7 defeats. This is a huge fight. Poirier versus Chandler. It's a fight that we've wanted since both these guys got into the UFC. And it's a fight that I think is a lot more difficult to dissect and break down than people may actually give both of these guys credit for. I think a lot of people coming into this fight are going to sit here and look and be like, well, Poirier's got the more technical boxing. Poirier's going to come in and knock out Michael Chandler, blah, blah, blah. You know, Chandler this, Chandler that. And look, you could say it all you want, but Chandler's a dog, man. Chandler is a fucking dog. That guy comes in and he comes to fight every single time. Has he been finished in his career before? Yes. Has he been knocked out before? Yeah. But does that guy come to fight every single time? Yep. And is it going to be easy to get him out of there? Absolutely not. You look at his record, 23 victories, 7 defeats. 11 of those wins come by way of KO, TKO, 7 by submission, and 5 by decision. So 18 out of his 23 victories come by way of finish. Out of his 7 losses, he's been knocked out 4 times, never been submitted, and only been to decision 3 times. So most of his losses come by way of finish, just as much as most of his wins come by way of finish. Chandler's going to come in there, and he's coming to fight from the start of the fight until the end of it. You look at his last fight, obviously he's got that win over Tony El Cucuy Ferguson via front kick 17 seconds into the second round. Prior to that, it was that war with Justin Gaethje, back and forth. He hurt him with that left hook right hand. Gaethje hurt him with that rear uppercut a lot, the left hook behind it. The low kicks from Gaethje did some damage on Chandler, but Chandler came back and landed some low kicks as well. He was working the body with those hooks to the body and then coming up top to land the 1-2 to the head. Got some takedowns on Gaethje, but Gaethje was able to reverse the one big takedown that Chandler got. It was back and forth. It's one of the best fights I've ever seen, and it was actually the main card opener for UFC 268, which took place in MSG, or Madison Square Garden, November 6, 2021. Prior to that, he lost to Charles Do Bronx Oliveira, the former lightweight champion, now with the new champion being Islam Makhachev. But in that fight, early in that fight, in that first round, man, Chandler won the first round. He dropped Oliveira up against the cage, right hand, left hook, boom, caught him with the left hook, hurt him, jumped on him, kind of went to the ground with him, played the ground game a little bit, gave up his back to Oliveira. But then he jumped back and got a slam. He was able to reverse the position and get on top against Charles Oliveira and then play on the ground a little bit more and let him up. But then in the second round, they both threw right hands. They both threw a left hook, and Oliveira's got there first, dropped Chandler. He jumped on him, and he finished him off. Prior to that, his UFC debut, first round TKO victory over Dan Hooker. He got him up against the cage. He pressured him. He crowded him. Right hand to the body, switch stance into the left hook as Hooker circled off, and boom, switch stance, left hook, cracks Dan Hooker on the chin and puts him out cold, knocks him into orbit. Last fight in Bellator, he knocks out Benson Henderson at 2 minutes and 9 seconds in the first round. Knocks out Sidney Outlaw in the first round at 2 minutes and 59 seconds. He lost to Patricio Fieri, that was at Bellator 221. He lost via TKO in the first. Prior to that, he got revenge against Brent Primus, who won the fight on a technicality due to I believe it was that peroneal nerve injury, which at the time we didn't really see much in MMA, but after that we saw it a lot. He came back and won that fight via decision. He was able to submit Brandon Gertz via a first round arm triangle choke. He then got a decision over Goiti Yamauchi. Goiti Yamauchi at Bellator 192, Jackson versus Sonnen. Then there was that loss to Brent Primus. But he's got those victories over Eddie Alvarez. They're 1-1. We never did get to see the trilogy. Maybe if Eddie signs with the UFC and comes back, then we'll get to see Iron Michael Chandler versus Eddie Alvarez 3, because we did never get that trilogy like I just mentioned. But look, going into this fight, we know what we're going to expect. The speed and the power is going to be on the side of Iron Michael Chandler. The wrestling advantage is going to be on the side of Chandler. The boxing technique is going to be on the side of Poirier. The volume striking is going to be on the side of Poirier. And I feel like the finishing upside, if it comes to death via accumulation, death by volume, that's going to be on the side of Dustin Poirier as well. Like, we expect that, right? Like, we both know that that's how that fight's going to play out. And you go to Poirier's record, 28-7. He's coming off of that loss in the title fight against Charles do Bronx Oliveira via third-round submission. That was on December 11, 2021. So almost a full year since we've seen Dustin Poirier inside the octagon. Prior to that, it was those 2 back-to-back victories over Conor McGregor. The first one at UFC 257 via that KO in the second round. Just put him on and put it on him. Uppercut, right hook, straight left, right hook, uppercut, hook, straight, through those combinations, then eventually timed it with that right hook to the chin as McGregor fell down and then got the TKO victory. In the second one, it was that TKO due to leg injury. McGregor looked good until Poirier decided to just close the distance, land the straight left, the right hook, the uppercuts up the middle, and just put the pressure on him. He got the takedown against Conor McGregor. Actually, he didn't get the takedown, but McGregor jumped the guillotine, which is something that Poirier is definitely famous for. He jumps guillotines in situations where he shouldn't, because he never really gets those guillotines, but he always seems to jump it in as a form of his takedown defense. But then he was able to get out of it. Poirier was able to really wrestle from the top. And even though McGregor got his feet on the hips and was trying to use that scissor sweep, use the scissor guard to go back and forth and get in the top position, he was getting bombed on from the top. He did defend some of the shots as well. Like, I feel like it looked worse than it actually was, because McGregor was able to defend it, but he threw that teep kick to the body. Poirier had that elbow guard up, or had that elbow up, and I think that's what actually hurt the shin of McGregor. But McGregor got hit with the straight left hand, and when he stepped back after he threw a kick, his shin and foot just completely broke. His foot was dangling there, and the fight got stopped in between the first and the second round. He had that unanimous decision victory over Dan Hooker in a war. It was a back-and-forth war. Poirier clearly won it, but he definitely got hurt by Hooker at certain points. Almost got finished at the end of, I believe, the second round, going into the third, where if there was maybe 10 more seconds on the clock, Poirier probably would have got finished and Hooker would have won that fight. He lost to Habib. I guess no shame in that. We obviously know that. Prior to that Habib loss, he went on a huge win streak with wins over the likes of Max Holloway via decision, Eddie Alvarez via TKO, Justin Gaethje via TKO, Anthony Pettis via submission. A no contest to Eddie Alvarez in the first fight at UFC 211. Win over Jim Miller, and then prior to that, it was a loss to Michael Johnson via first round KO at 1 minute and 35 seconds. This is a really solid fight, and it's very hard to break down, because we know that if Chandler uses his wrestling, he's going to be able to out-wrestle Poirier. He's going to be able to take him down. If this was a 5-round fight, I would 100% be on the side of the former interim lightweight champion in Dustin Poirier. 100%. If it was 5 rounds, I think I would definitely be picking Poirier. Probably 90-95% of the time, I would be on the side of Dustin. But he's coming off that loss to Oliveira. I know Chandler lost to Oliveira, but he's coming off that win via that front kick KO of Tony Ferguson. You look at the height, 5'9" for Dustin Poirier, 5'8" for Iron Michael Chandler. Reach, you're going to get a 72-inch reach for Poirier to a 71.5-inch reach on the side of Iron Michael Chandler. You look at the win percentages for both men, 54% of the wins come by way of KO TKO for Poirier to 48% of the wins come by way of KO TKO for Chandler. 21% of wins come by way of submission for Poirier to 30% of the wins come by way of submission for Chandler. 25% of the wins by way of decision for Poirier to 22% of the wins via decision for Chandler. Pretty close in terms of stats in all aspects of winning methods in MMA. Average fight time definitely going to be on the side of Poirier here. 10 minutes and 2 seconds compared to 7 minutes and 16 seconds for Iron Michael Chandler. Knockdown average per 15-minute fight, that's going to be on the side of the number 4 ranked. Is he number 4 ranked or number 5 ranked? Let's see. Number 5 ranked Iron Michael Chandler. He's sitting at a, let's see. I don't know why it's here. 0.67 knockdowns per 15-minute fight for Poirier to 0.79 knockdowns per 15-minute for Chandler. Significant strikes. These stats should be pretty interesting. 5.61 landed per minute for Poirier to 5.17 for Chandler. 50% of the significant strikes land for Poirier. 46% of them land for Chandler. So that's definitely an advantage on the side of Poirier, but pretty close in terms of statistical analysis. 4.28 strikes absorbed per minute for Poirier to 4.87 for Chandler. So even though Chandler does get hit more statistically, it's pretty close. I mean, if they start throwing, they're both going to start throwing at each other and start bombing away. 53% striking defense rate for Poirier to 45% defense rate for Chandler. Poirier is definitely better when it comes to defense, but if he starts getting into brawls and letting his hands go, he can get hit. He has trouble with straight shots more than hooks or uppercuts. And I think that's something we're going to talk about in a little bit. But the straight shots down the middle, especially from an orthodox fighter, seem to give him a lot of trouble. And like I said, we'll talk about that in a minute. But Poirier is very good at using that boxing Philly shell type of style. I call it the Dracula's cape guard because it's not fully a Philly shell, but he'll keep that lead elbow up and kind of block or deflect the punches with the elbow and then keep the rear side high guard up. And then obviously come in with right hook, straight left, uppercut, right hook. He's very good at manipulating the guard and breaking the guard down. Poirier's good at like double jab, just jab, 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 left uppercut, right hook, straight left, lead uppercut, jab, 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 hook, uppercut, jab, jab, right hook, right uppercut on the same side. He manipulates your guard. He gets you to high guard, cover up in the front. Then he comes around the side. When you try to come around the side and defend that, he comes up the middle with the hook, with the uppercuts. He's very good at breaking the opponent's guard down, mixing up the trajectory of his punches. And when it comes to who's the better boxer in terms of technical ability, that's definitely going to be on the side of Dustin Poirier. 100% he's the more technical guy. He can fight more technical than Chandler can. But Chandler's a powerhouse, man. He's got speed. He's got power. That left hook right hand is probably the most dangerous left hook right hand in the sport. In my opinion, 100%, it's one of the most dangerous shots. He's definitely probably the strongest guy in that lightweight division, or the most dangerous guy in terms of knockout ability in that lightweight division. I fully believe Chandler's probably the most dangerous guy in terms of knockouts, aside from a Conor McGregor. But at this point, can we really put McGregor in that conversation? I don't really think so, just based off his recent performances. And again, you go back to Poirier and you're like, well, he has those back-to-back victories over Conor McGregor after McGregor knocked him out in the first one. And the first one was a phenomenal victory. McGregor looked good early on, hurt Poirier at certain points, but eventually Poirier smelled blood, hurt him after chopping with those low kicks, and then swarmed him up against the cage and put him out. Poirier smells blood. It's not going to be 3 or 4 punch combos. It's going to be like 19, 20, 30 punch combinations where he's going to jump on you and put you away until the ref pulls him off. Like, he's not going to stop. And that's where Chandler can't be. He cannot be stuck with his back up against the cage against a guy in Dustin Poirier. But the one thing I think we're going to see from Chandler is that he's going to use his wrestling. And I think if he uses his wrestling in this fight against Poirier, he can dominate this fight. If this was a 5-rounder, like I said, I would probably side with Poirier 85-90% of the time. But this is only a 3-round fight. I expect the wrestling, the takedowns of Michael Chandler to be there. You look at the grappling aspects of the fight in terms of statistical analysis, and when it comes to takedown defense, Poirier's got a 64% takedown defense rate. Chandler's only got a 36% takedown accuracy, 71% takedown defense on the side of Chandler. And I know those stats look like Poirier is probably going to be able to defend it, but Chandler's one of the most explosive wrestlers and probably one of the best wrestlers in the division aside from Islam Makhachev. And I think if he gets in on the hips of Poirier, he's going to take him down. And Poirier is good with some submission attempts, but really the best submission attempts we'll see from Poirier, he's going to jump that guillotine. If he does, I don't think he's going to get it. I think Chandler's going to be able to get out of it. He's never been submitted before in his career. I don't think Poirier is going to be the guy to do it. But if he jumps guillotine when Chandler tries to take him down, that's going to be a world of trouble for Poirier, because Chandler's going to get out of it. He's going to work from the top position. He's going to look to ground and pound. He's going to look to land those shots from the top. Chandler's got so much power. That's not really where you want to be. You don't want to have Chandler on top of you. He does have submission upside. He's gotten submissions before. He's got a really good arm triangle. He can get a rear naked choke. He almost got submitted by Benson Henderson, but that's neither here nor there. He was able to get out of it, like I said, never being submitted in his MMA career. And, this fight overall is just really difficult to predict because I feel like there's more advantages on the side of Chandler, but at the same time, everything that Chandler throws is with a lot of power. He's looking to knock you out. He's going to throw a hard jab. He's going to throw that right hand behind it. He's going to throw those hard shots to the body. Sometimes he'll go right hand, switch stance, try to throw an overhand left, and he'll get himself out of position. If Poirier cannot get into a brawl, if he can stay composed, if he can stay dialed in and defensively aware, Poirier can pick him apart using the jab, using the right hook, using the uppercuts. Like I said, Poirier's the better striker, but the speed and the power is a big, big weapon for Chandler. And like I said, one of the strongest guys in the division. The left hook, right hand, and the 1-2 down the middle, they're not only extremely powerful, they're not only extremely technical, but they're fast. It is fast, it is speed, and in MMA, speed kills, and I think that's something that Chandler has on his side. Even when he caught Gaethje on the chin, like the minute he landed that left hook right hand, as quick as he landed it, like it was hurting Gaethje. You saw him wobble, you saw him hurt him. Even late in the fight, he kept his power with the body shots, with the shots up top, with the uppercuts, with the left hook right hand, with the double jab right hand. He kept his power for 15 minutes, and it was a 15-minute fight. They went back and forth. They went to war. I know Poirier finished Gaethje. He was able to counter him or catch him with that straight left and then followed up with the right hand up against the cage. And I know he finished him, but I don't know. I feel like Chandler looked more impressive in his fight against Gaethje than Poirier did, even though Poirier finished him. So you could tell me it makes no sense, but I feel like you know what I'm trying to say here. And when it comes to making a prediction for the fight, I'm going to go with Michael Chandler. I'm going to go with Chandler, and here's why. Poirier in that first round is good. He's defensive. He's offensive. Like he'll come in and he'll go to war. He doesn't mind getting into a firefight, but sometimes those firefights cause him to get hurt a lot more than he should. And even though he might pull out and win some of those exchanges, I don't think you want to get into a firefight with Michael Chandler. Like, I think the volume is definitely on the side of Poirier, but he's had trouble with the straight punches. Like I said, we were going to talk about earlier in the podcast. I said we'd touch on it later. He has more trouble with the straight shots, the jabs, the right hands, especially against Oliveira. He had a lot of trouble. The front kicks up the middle. The right hand from Oliveira was landing over and over again. The jab, the right hand, the straight right down the middle. It was landing a lot with the guard of Poirier because when you use that Philly shell, when you use that Dracula's cape, it's going to block the hooks. It's going to block the uppercuts for the most part. But the straight shots down the middle, you're kind of there. Your nose is there. Your forehead is there. You're there for the straight shots because there's not as much windup and you can't really roll those straight punches. It's a lot easier to roll those hooks and try to deflect those uppercuts or overhands than it is to try to roll a straight shot because there's not as much windup on it. And with the speed and power of Michael Chandler, I think he's going to step into range, land the left hook, follow up with the right hand behind it, and I think he's going to clean KO Dustin Poirier. I think this is going to be the fight where Chandler really makes a statement in the UFC. He's already made a statement against Ferguson, but I think he's going to land that left hook. That right hand's going to follow up behind it, and it's going to be so fast, Poirier's not going to be able to see it, and he's going to knock him out cold. So my pick is going to be the number 5 ranked Iron Michael Chandler, the former 2-time or multiple-time Bellator lightweight champion, to defeat the number 2 ranked Dustin Poirier via a first-round knockout. I'm going first round. I was going to go second round, but I'm going first round. I think that he's going to catch him. He's going to catch him cold. Left hook, right hand behind it. It's the best combination that Chandler throws. The 3-2, kind of like McGregor from Southpaw. But I'm telling you, that left hook and that straight right hand right down the middle is going to catch Poirier on the chin. Too much speed, too much power, and he's putting the diamond to sleep, and Iron is going to reign supreme. So Iron Michael Chandler to defeat Dustin Poirier via first-round knockout with that left hook and the right hand behind it, and he'll be looking to challenge for the title in his next fight, in my opinion.